Hi, Jon Velie, CEO of OnlineVisas, and I'm here today with a very important episode of immigration solutions during the coronavirus. It's an important day today because this is the day that President Trump dropped the executive order to temporarily suspend immigration into the United States. All right, so we're going to dig right into that. We'll talk about the order. We'll break it down for you. Who does it apply to? Who does it not apply to? And then we'll talk about the coronavirus and some other things. But the name of the executive order is the Proclamation Suspending Entry of Immigrants Who Present Risk to the United States labor market during the economic recovery following the COVID-19 outbreak. And it was issued on April 22nd, 2020. Understandable. The economy is in a downturn, a significant downturn. We had, as of this morning, 26 million people who had filed unemployment. And so this is a natural thing to do, is to worry about the American workers. There are some people that think that this is mostly a political piece. I won't take a real opinion on that right now, but we'll break into it and speak more from an immigration attorney's perspective on how does this affect you if you are either an employer that wants to employ a foreign national, if you are a person that wants to apply for a green card, if you're a person that's on a non-immigrant visa. How do these things apply to you? I see some good friends out there. Diego Andres Gomez Leon, my good friend Nicholas Rabaza, longtime client there, Charlene O'Connor, and Todd Bevo Smith is watching. Good to see you guys. Charlene O'Connor doesn't like me. I don't know why she doesn't like me. I never wanted her as a friend on my Facebook, but she shows up just to tell me that. So it's good to see you, Charlene. Have a wonderful day. I'm here to talk about a really important matter to people that may be impacted by President Trump's executive order and what it means. So what it says, right, is that on April 23rd, the executive order called the Proclamation, we just said it, has a suspension and limitation on entry under the first component of it. It says the entry into the United States of aliens as immigrants is hereby suspended and limited subject to Section 2 of the Proclamation. All right. So what does this mean? So it means that some employment-based permanent residency green cards out for applicants for some permanent resident or green cards outside of the United States. All right. So if someone is filing a green card outside of the United States, and it's not, and it's just an employment-based one, then they can't do that for 60 days. All right. So if you're outside the United States and you want to file a green card application, you can't do that right now unless you are an EB-5 investor, so they can still do it, right? JT Thatcher's out there. Cesar Murrow, good to see you. And Malik, good to see you out there. We're talking about the COVID virus proclamation from the president and what is it limited to. So we're just starting into that. So it's limited to people outside of the United States that are trying to file green card applications, and not for all of them. Right? So it's if you are married to an American citizen, or you're an American citizen, you want to bring in your spouse or children, or even intended adoptees, you can do that right now. If you're filing for an investor green card called an EB-5, you can do that right now, even though you're outside the United States. That's what it means. I'm gonna stick on my glasses here. I'll dig into it a little bit more. All right, so I have this flyer that we put together this morning. If you'd like a copy of this flyer, and it says, what it means, and additional pieces on this, I'll send this to you. Just private message me your email address, and I'll send you this flyer. Pretty handy if you're an employer, an employee, or have somebody else who may be impacted on this. What does it mean? So it also means a person cannot enter the United States. Right now, if they're outside the United States, they can't enter the United States without a permanent residency visa, which is also known as a green card, or a travel card. Now, travel cards are issued to people sometimes when their green cards are pending. They're also called advanced parole. Right, so if you have a travel card, or you know somebody has a travel card, and it says advanced parole, they can come in. Also, medical professionals or researchers that are coming in intending to combat the COVID-19 virus, they can come in too. All right, so that means H-1B visas holders outside the United States, we're working with some of them that want to come in to handle the COVID-19 virus, they can still come in. And other professionals, researchers can. I think that would even extend to some of the technology people that are dealing with this. I think there'll be a big issue for needing folks that are going to come in and read the labs or create, technology that will help with the lab work that's going to be needed. On that subject, we just saw yesterday that they're going to start rolling out in-home testing. All right, that's fantastic news, and it's sort of been lost. I'd only heard it once. I heard it on Today's show, and I haven't heard it since, but it looks like they're close to being able to have in-home testing. So what does that mean? They're going to have to send these tests someplace. So we need doctors and medical professionals, people to understand the lab element. So this exemption, right, for the suspension of immigration will allow medical professionals to come in, and those would be some of the folks that could do that. We talked about EB-5 investors. Those are people who are going to invest either $900,000 or $1.8 million into U.S. companies that are going to create at least 10 jobs per investment. Those are called the EB-5 investors. They can still file their visa applications outside the United States right now. That has not stopped. Also, spouses, children, or intended adoptees of U.S. citizens. We talked about them. They can still file their green card applications. And also an exception for those that assist with certain law enforcement objectives. So if there's a witness outside the United States and they have a trial coming up, they'd be able to come in. Members and children of the U.S. Armed Forces. There's a number of members of the U.S. Armed Forces that are not American citizens. They can come in, and their children and spouses can. Then there are special immigrants. It's called the EB-4 visa. There's some of the special immigrants can continue to file their green cards outside the United States, and national interest waiver cases. That's the EB-2 national interest waiver. So all of those folks are not precluded by this suspension. And again, if I have a flyer, I'll send you this flyer. It breaks it down pretty simply. I can also send you a copy of actually what the White House laid out, right? Glad to send those to you. We're going to email them to our clients. But if you want to get ahead of that, you're a client of ours, friend of ours, send me a private message and I'll send you this. So that's what that means. So what it does not preclude, right, the filing of permanent residency visas or green cards for spouses and children outside the United States. All right. I've got a client on, Nicholas Rabaza. His wife is in Colombia. He's worried about getting her up here. We've talked in the last couple of days. So Nicholas, this does not apply to you. You'll be able to bring in your lovely bride. It'll still be going through the system, I say. That will not be delayed. Now, the consulates are still closed. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So having a consulate appointment is going to be delayed. But I'll go to this in a section. Those we think may open in early May, and that's just about a week or so from now, maybe a little bit longer. But we're looking at that. I see a lot of other friends there. Sasha Prima Shah, great Seminole Friedman out there. Greg Singleton, the musician, and Andrew Allen, the great rugby player, and Paul Good, Medro, my friend from back in college. Good to see you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'm talking about immigration during the coronavirus. Today's a very interesting day. Ann Biddle, who came over on a green card, which a real honor to work with Ann and Paul, her husband, and then my good friend Vince Fairbairn's there. Good to see you guys. We're talking about immigration solutions to coronavirus. A very, very big day in immigration. Today's the day that President Trump's executive order goes into effect, and that executive order started with a tweet on Monday, went with a meeting on Tuesday, and then an executive order on Wednesday, and here we are on Thursday, and it's in effect. Okay, so this week has been a big week for immigration. A lot of people don't know what this means, especially when the tweet said it's going to stop all immigration. Well, it hasn't stopped all immigration, not even close. right? So there's a lot of exceptions. So we're talking about it does not stop the application of green cards for spouses and children of U.S. citizens. It also does not preclude the filing of a green card, any employment-based green card, right? Inside the United States. What does that mean? This is really big, right? So if you're in the United States and you want to file a green card tomorrow, you can still do it, right? For any of the reasons, the EB 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you can do it outside the United States on an EB 5. You can do it outside the United States if it's a marriage-based or children-based green card. You can do all that. Okay? Now, a couple other things. This is really, really critical. This did not include a suspension of non-immigrant visa applications. So what are non-immigrant visa applications? These are the alphabet soup of temporary work visas, okay? So that can be the H-1B. That's for professionals, those with university degrees that want to get a job in the United States with a company that requires that degree and will pay them the prevailing wage. That's the H-1Bs. Those were not precluded, okay? That's a non-immigrant visa. Non-immigrant visas are not precluded, and anybody in the United States is not precluded. But you can file a non-immigrant visa right now inside or outside the United States without issue. H-1B is one of them. The O-1 for extraordinary ability. We've seen extraordinary ability athletes, entertainers, techies. We do a lot of those. Those can still go forward. P1s for athletes. E2s for treaty investors. E1s for treaty traders. E3s for our Australian versions of the H-1B for professionals. TN1s, those are for Mexicans and Canadian professionals. Those can still go forward. And L1s for intercompany transferees and the others, okay? So I'm just listing you a number of the more popular non-immigrant visas. Those are not precluded. But this is really important. This is really, really important. There will be a report made in 30 days from a couple of different agencies to the president on the impact of the non-immigrant visas to the U.S. workers. Okay, what does that mean? So what happened, right, is those could have been precluded. Maybe not under INA 212F, but the president was trying to extend that, we believe, to kind of a far-reaching. This is a public health concern. We're going to stop this stuff, right? And he was coupling the public health concern with the economy, right? Difficult to do legally, and I think that's why he backed off. But in addition to the law, that would have been tough for him to do it, and it would have been attacked in litigation, likely. He was probably lobbied significantly by both Republicans and Democrats that would really, really stifle companies that are trying to come out of this problem, right? We're trying to get the economy back on track. While we are shutting down immigration, we're opening up our states, right? A number of states are going to open up, mine included, on Friday. Georgia's talking about it. Lots of other states are looking at opening up a little bit, and we're shutting down immigration. Well, companies are wanting to open back up so they can do business. So the non-immigrant workforce is critical. It's critical to a lot of a company's successes. So they were able to lobby the president, and they took that off the table. And you can tell he wasn't completely satisfied that. So it's 30 days. So if you are going to apply for a non-immigrant visa as a company or as an employee, get it done. If you're on the fence and you're thinking about it, do it now, right? Get your H-1Bs in. So the H-1B visas, if you don't know this, had a lottery that was decided on March 31st for the most of them. They're going to continue to do it. Some others may open it. But most people were told by the 31st whether or not they could file an H-1B, and they were given 90 days to do that. So that would be June 31st in which they could get that done. Well, this in 30 days from today, so that would be May 23rd, they may decide it's off, right? So that June 31st deadline may be now a May 23rd deadline. We don't know that for sure. We don't know if they'll do that, right? But if you're thinking about whether you should do it, best practices are get those cases in so that they don't stop that from happening. So that's what we're here for. This is a sense of urgency. Our firm, if you come to us, we got to put it, front burner to handle those cases right now so that we don't run out of time. We'll do our level best to get them in. But if you're trying to make that decision, make it soon so that you're not out in in the cold looking in, because that could happen. So this is a flyer I put together. Again, if you want this flyer, private message me and send me your email address and I'll send it. We're going to try to send it to our clients. I'll also send you this as the White House's document on the proclamation. We can break that down further. There's been a couple of articles on this as well that are interesting. Let me see a couple notes on this, how it sort of applies. So they had how does this impact immigration? So there's a lot of people that will follow the impact on immigration out there. And this is one from Boundless Immigration called Trump's new executive order will favor immigrants from Western Europe. And it's pretty interesting on that. They said out of the 1.1 million green cards that the United States typically issues each year, 358,000 would not be approved as long as this proclamation's in effect. Okay, that's a little bit over the top. I'll get back to, I got some questions. I'll come back to this. I see Jerry Fagoni asking about student visas. Student visas right now are non-immigrant visas, so people can issue student visas. Now, the consulates are closed currently. Okay, and let me get back to that because these are additional things. So consulates are closed right now, but as soon as they open, because it's a non-immigrant visa, students would be able to come back in right now. And so that's one of the issues, and we think those will open, and they'll do that. So I think students will be okay as we stand there right now. Diego Leon says, what about the H-1B visas for engineers, and especially H-1B visas cap exempt? Diego just talked about that. H-1B visas are okay right now, and student visas, as Jerry asked, and Ann Biddle has asked about the K-1, which is a temporary visa for spouses of U.S. citizens. So let me cover them all in one thing. All of those are non-immigrant visas. Non-immigrant visas are not precluded. If they're in the United States, it's not a problem whatsoever. You can put it in. Now, there is going to be a discussion in 30 days where these two agencies are going to report back to the president on whether or not the non-immigrant visas and the H-1B, student visas, and K-1 are all non-immigrant visas, what those impacts are on U.S. workers. So right now we're good. So Diego, you can file your H-1B capped exempt visa if you made it through the lottery or your employees made it through the lottery right now. Engineers can do that right now. And if they're out of the country, they can still apply for them as soon as the consulates reopen. They are closed right now. We're looking at the potential of May 3rd being the opening date of when USCIS will be having its in-person services. We don't know about the consulates. We think that might be a similar date. We know that the borders with Canada and Mexico are closed for non-essential travel until at least May 20th. So that could be there. Now, these things can change. And I think be on the lookout for these things, right? So, and I'll go into this in a second. So, states are starting to open up right now. We are 40 days since the lockdown started, and that is a long time, and people are very frustrated, and everybody understands that. And we're kind of two minds right now. One mind is, let's just open this thing back up. We need to save the economy. The others are, we don't know much yet, right? Politicians are telling us to open this up, not doctors. The doctors are much less cautious, are much more cautious about this, and part of it is because we don't have good testing. I just said that I heard about a rollout of home testing that can be coming out, but it hadn't happened yet, right? And I talked about this the last couple of days. Right now, nationally, 20% of people being tested are coming back positive. And in New York, it's 40%, right? These are really, really high numbers. The Zika virus had a testing positivity ratio of 1%, right? That's a really, really small. And I think folks, the medical professionals would be safe at 5%. But right now, the national average is 20%. My state of Oklahoma has determined, our governor, Stitt, has determined that we can reopen tomorrow. We are one of the 4 least testing states in the country, right? And on that, a sad thing happened today. Regardless of your political thinking, the older brother of Elizabeth Warren died today of the coronavirus. And Elizabeth Warren's brother lives in my town of Norman, Oklahoma. So a very sad thing for the Warren family. Here's a picture of Elizabeth Warren's brother in the middle. next to his other two brothers, or her other two brothers, with an OU shirt on. I live in a small town, and so this is pretty significant. We're in a town of about 100,000 people, maybe 20,000 students. So these folks, they don't live far from me. As a matter of fact, they're just kind of over my right corners where they're out. But this is his brother, Don Reed Herring Center, that died of the coronavirus today in my hometown of Norman, Oklahoma. And a good man. He's a 20-year veteran of the U.S. Air Force. Gave his fought for our country, and a hero like that. And he died today in my town of the coronavirus. And our state is reopening tomorrow, and our city in Oklahoma City, Norman and Oklahoma City and Tulsa, the three biggest cities in Oklahoma, they're not opening, right? And we have this thing going on between politicians of when we should open. And again, no doctors are weighing in saying to do this. So, what are we doing practically? I asked my team today, what should we do? And so I'm in my office right now. I'm by myself. That's how we typically do it. And people will come up. My colleagues will come up, maybe copy some things, do something, get a check the mail, those sort of things that we have to do. But it's really difficult, right? And it's tough. I mean, we're not as efficient as we would like to be. But we're doing what we can do, and we're trying to be smart, and that's what we're doing. So we're going to be in a dilemma, right? The state says it's okay. Our city says it's not. My daughter's birthday is this weekend, and her boyfriend's parents don't want her to come over, and I understand that, but it's tough, right? This is tough for all involved. But it's becoming political, and that's just crazy. This shouldn't be a political decision. I think we're the only country that really seems to be looking at the coronavirus as a debate, as a political debate, which is really odd. Canada isn't. I don't think that most of Europe is. Most folks just understand this is what we have to do, and they're looking at it. What are the steps? What we're hearing is, we're hoping that it comes out. We're looking at this, and it looks like the political bent on it is, if I predict that it's going to be okay, and I say everybody can come out, and they do, then I'm going to use that politically, right? That to me, that makes no sense at all. I know it's a political year, and I don't want to beat on that drum. I just want to be here to talk about these things. But I also care deeply about my people that I work with and my friends and family, and I don't want them to get sick. And at the same time, I got business to do too. I would love to jump on a plane and go see some clients. I know they're nervous, but you just can't. Doing that right now is not the smartest thing. So those sort of things. But, kind of going back to this, what does this mean? Well, really, this is also a political mover. There's only about 26,000 visas that will be impacted for this 60 days, right? I was reading this article that if it stayed in place, it would be 358. But it has a limited duration. It's a 60-day long ban, and it really only means about 26,000 visas will not be able to be applied for. This article talks about how that'll impact countries, right? Because really what's it going to block is family-based immigrants, employment-based immigrants, except for EB-5 investors, diversity visas. That's the diversity lottery. That's gone. That's done. You can't do the diversity lottery right now. Parents of U.S. citizens, they're gone, right? That's 34% of all relative immigrants, right? So a parent of a U.S. citizen has to stay outside the United States, and that's what that is. But again, it's 60 days, so we may politically oppose that. We may not like to do that. I'm an immigration attorney. I like to help my clients when they have a need, and I can't help them in some of these situations. But for the most part, it's not that different than what was already there, right? We already had the consulates closed, so a non-immigrant visa holder that got one. What that means, if you're on a non-immigrant visa, don't leave. You're not going to get back in. Okay, that's what you need to take away from this. If you're on a visa in the United States, don't leave the country, stay here. If you want to apply for a green card in the United States, you can still do it. If you want to apply for a green card for your spouse or children outside the United States, you can still do it. And if you want to invest in a U.S. company under the EB-5 visa, you can still do it. So that's it. I'll say it one more time. I've got a flyer. I'm glad to send it to you. Email us, information at velielaw.com. Go to OnlineVisas.com. Check it out. I see my friend Kumar Nandagam's there. Brian Davis, the great announcer for the Thunder. Rod Ring, the great judge here in Cleveland County, and my good friend Anthony Mattaccioni, all watching. Kind of summing up right now about the executive order that the president dropped. Been through it. I will save this. We will put this on the Online Visas YouTube channel. Hopefully we'll try to get that up today, if not tomorrow. We'll send you this if you want it. I'll send you this flyer if you want it. An important day in immigration, but not all immigration was stopped. Most immigration still going forward that was already going forward. Some things are still shut down but may reopen. Contact us if you have any particular details on that. Stay safe. Prayers and thoughts out to those who are dying of this horrible disease right now. I didn't even go into it, but the numbers are continuing to climb. We're at 2.5 million people and 40,000 deaths, I believe, in the United States. And I saw a picture the other day of Lyndon Johnson when the number of people in the Vietnam War had hit 40,000, and he looked like a broken man. We just hit it, and we're sailing by it, and we're looking at maybe 100,000, maybe 200,000. And I'm really concerned about the second spike and people that just go out not being tested and not having procedures in place, right? If you'd asked me what would I like to do, and I'm not a doctor, but I'm an employer, and I'm a parent, and I'm a friend, and I would like to see something where we had stay-at-home testing. We get some report back, you get a certification or a card that says you're okay. If you're not okay, you're quarantined for 14 days, then you go back and you open a company based on the health of the employees, right? And people going in. To me, something like that makes sense. I really don't like the political posturing of we have to open it up just because look, if they're right, great. We hope you're right. We hope we open it up, but it doesn't make sense that it would be right. It's leveling off, but it's not going away. We can do a second spike. It happened in 1919 after they sheltered in place for a while and for the Spanish flu. It came back and even worse. And, right now we'd like to get back online and stay that way. We want our colleges to open. We want to go to sporting events and things like that. And if we're just cool until we solve it, now we'll be all right. But we could, roll this into the fall. And that's when we're our most productive, aren't we? The summer would be the time you'd want to chill. But look, I'm not in charge. Just one man's opinion. I'm sure you all have various ones as well. Hope this was helpful today. Tune in tomorrow. We'll talk more about this. Jon Velie, CEO of OnlineVisas. Take care, y'all.